All right, welcome back to Nightly Sports Call. Just got a tweet from Dennis Touch of said there is not supposed to be a moral victory. Stallings has not been given a fair shake. Team will be good with 2 years. Count on it. I'm not sure about that, Dennis. You know, I don't buy into the moral victory, but I think that there is one here. This is such a young team, a lot of freshmen, a lot of unknown. That's for sure. Stallings is even unknown for this team right now. Don't know if he is the right fit for this program. I know there's a lot of frustration over there in the Pitt Athletic Department. I know there's a lot of frustration with the fans. But tonight could be a turning point, and maybe they can use this as momentum moving forward. They won 4 straight. Now they're up against one of the top teams, one of the top programs in the country, and they kept it a game. They kept it a game till late. It didn't look like a game at halftime. It really didn't. I was up in the sports office, and I thought they could have lost by 40. But you know what? They surprised me. They showed some heart. They came back in it. They hit some shots, and they made it a game. They obviously need a few more pieces, like inside. They're getting dominated inside. They need a guy that can drive. There's no question about that. Maybe a point guard, someone that can penetrate. I think that's where they kind of lost it in this game at the end. And they need a guy that can hit some shots. And maybe they have a few of these guys if they can get open. But I felt like they were out of their league there in the final minutes. A couple turnovers. You wouldn't expect that from a veteran team. Maybe a little nervous being in that position and a chance to win. I don't know what it is. Probably a combination of all of it. But I think if they had a solid veteran point guard, the guy that could penetrate, make a couple shots, create something, get someone open outside to hit a shot, they might have had a shot at the end of this game. Also, out-rebounded underneath. And, you know, those are areas that they have to try to get better. And maybe Stallings goes out and gets those guys. And maybe they are better next year. I'm not really banking on it this year. I think it's going to be a tough season. This is maybe gives you some optimism for the rest of the season. But, you know, if they can get 2 or 3 more wins, maybe 4 more wins, if they can get to like 10 wins, it's a successful season in my eyes. If they only win 1 or 2 more games, then not so much. Once they get into that ACC schedule, it's going to be tough. And right now, I don't have a game on the schedule that I would circle as a win for the Panthers. They might sneak in a win against one of the lower ACC programs, but right now I don't consider this team, I don't think this team can get 4 or 5 more wins. If they do, yeah, it's a successful season. And how they finish maybe would be the best barometer of what direction this program is headed in. And you know, if they win a couple games, if they don't win until they win late, then maybe the program is headed in the right direction. You know, I don't really know about some of the recruits they got in, to be honest with you, and I don't think a lot of people do. I know they have some what they're supposed to be good players coming in, but you won't know that until you see them on the court. So, you know, recruiting is just really a tough gauge. I mean, yeah, you can get the top 2 guys, but you have no idea what they're going to do when they get on the court. And the Panthers frankly aren't getting the top guys in the country. They're going to all those blue blood programs like the Kentuckys and the North Carolinas and the Kansas. They're not coming to Pitt right now. And maybe, you know, if Stallings can get one of those guys, that could change a program around. And, you know, all it takes is 1 or 2 guys. That's all it takes in college basketball. If they can get 1 or 2 guys to make a difference, and then this team can go from a 6-win team to a 17-win team. That's what they need. I mean, everyone says this guy's a good coach. You heard Keith Dambrot up and down giving him credit about how this guy's a great coach, and I want to see it. If he can keep these young guys together and buy into running up and down the court and making some shots, then maybe. But if he loses this team again, I don't know what the future is for Kevin Stallings. We'll see. There's a lot of season to go. Let's go out to the phone lines. We're going to go out to Ron in El Equipa. How you doing, Ron?
Hi, Rich.
Hey, thanks for calling.
Great, no problem. My question is, what do you think the Steelers' chances of winning against Baltimore tomorrow night?
I think they're good. They're a 7-point favorite. They're favored to win. They should win this game. But, you know, the thing that I'm nervous about is maybe the lack of focus and losing a guy like Ryan Shazier, not knowing what his status is. It's still kind of unknown. The Steelers haven't really released anything on Shazier and how he's doing after that spinal stabilization surgery. So, yeah, this is one of these games that could be a coin flip. Their odds makers have him as a 7-point favorite. If I'm a betting man, I take the Ravens. I still think the Steelers win this game, but it's going to be a close game. They usually are with this team when these two teams play. You look at the last 22 games, they've split the last 22, and throughout the history, you know, a lot of these games have been decided by 4 or less points. Not lately. The Steelers have a 2-game win streak against the Ravens, and they actually haven't won a season series since 2008, and that's tough to do against the Ravens. So, you know, the odds, I mean, when you look at it, you know, the odds are they're not going to sweep the series, but they are odds-on favorites to win tomorrow's game. And I still think they can outscore the Ravens. But, you know, without Ryan Shazier in there on defense, Flacco might be able to pick that apart a little bit. Shazier was their leading tackler, maybe their best defender. So that's going to be a big shoes to fill, basically. All right, back out to the phone lines. Let's go out to Harry in Elizabeth. How you doing, Harry?
Okay, how you doing? Yeah, I just want to tell you about, about the quarterback from Palmerston. I just think he's making a mistake going to Notre Dame because he's going to get lost in the shuffle. And I think in around 2 years, he's going to transfer to somewhere else.
Nah, I don't think so, Harry. He's not making a mistake. Notre Dame's Notre Dame is a top program. He's going to one of the elite programs. He has the potential to start next year as a freshman at Notre Dame.
Yeah, but how many? They get the best recruits in the country.
They do, and this guy's considered to be one of the best quarterbacks in the country. I mean, he had 5 touchdowns in a state championship. You don't know that.
I don't think he will.
We don't know that. We're going to have to see.
I don't think he will.
He's been one of the best quarterbacks I had.
Joe Montana, baby.
Well, we don't know about that. Thanks for your call, Harry. He's no Joe Montana. I appreciate it. All right, let's go out to John in Greentree. How you doing, John?
Hey, thanks for taking my call, man. How you doing,
no problem.
Man?
How you doing?
What's up, man? What do you think about the Penguins, man? Why can't the Penguins win against the Toronto Maple Leafs? And what about Ryan Shazier, man? How is he doing? Is he going to be okay? And do you think the Steelers can beat Baltimore tomorrow? Thanks.
Yeah, I think the Steelers will win that game. I think it'll be a close game, maybe 1 or 2 points. I think the Steelers will win. Ryan Shazier, don't want to speculate on his status right now. The Steelers haven't released anything other than his last update was a spinal stabilization surgery, but no updates on his condition as of right now. And the Penguins, yeah, they've won 5 of their last 6 into this game, so they won 5 of their last 7. I think they're playing pretty good right now. They just, went up against a pretty good Toronto team who's one of the best teams in the East right now. All right, back out to the phone lines. Let's go to Mike out in Sharpsburg. How you doing, Mike?
Yes, good evening.
Thanks for calling.
Hey, one question for you. I just want your opinion. Do you agree or do you not agree with Pat Narduzzi's 7-year contract extension with Pitt? I think maybe a 2-year or 3-year deal would be okay, but 7 years, I'm a little shaky about that.
Mike, he already had 4 years. He already had 4 years. Hey, thanks for your call. He already had 4 years. It was basically a 3-year extension, and they, the word is that they gave him a little bit more money and more money for his assistant. So it was good for him. And when he's out on the recruiting trail, he can say, hey, I'm here for 7 years. I'm not going anywhere. This is my destination job. And I think that's a selling point for him. I like Pat Narduzzi. I think he's a good motivator. I think he's a good coach. I think he's a good guy. He's good for this program right now. He seems like he's a Pittsburgh guy, and I think players might want to play for him. Players want to come here for him. I go back to, I still think Pitt made a huge mistake by firing Dave Wannstedt, but I think they finally found the right choice in Pat Narduzzi. And yes, he had a down year, 5-7, and potentially, I mean, if I'm a Pitt fan out there, I'd brace yourself for another bad year next year, 5-7, 6-6, maybe 7-5 in that neighborhood. That's where I'm thinking. They have a tough schedule: Penn State, Notre Dame, Central Florida, all on their schedule early. They could start the season 1-3 again. But I liked what they did with Pat Narduzzi. I think that's a good decision. I think he needs to go out there and maybe get a big-time assistant and try to open up this offense again. He got a quarterback. He got a couple good running backs. So, we'll see. I know he has his hands on the defense there, and the defense has come around. But they're losing Whitehead, who's going to turn pro. They're losing O'Neal up front on offense. He's going to turn pro. Quadri Henderson, which I thought was a mistake. He's turning pro. So they're losing those 3 guys plus other seniors. And it's going to be a young team next year. So I'm not too optimistic about next year, but we'll see 2-3 years down the road. I got to take a break. Back with more phone calls, some tweets coming up next. Stay right there.